Okay, hello. It's me and Ben. Hello, Ben.
Hello, hello.
And we are back with part two of the Dice Fight XL debrief report, in which we promised to talk in a little bit more detail about the teams. So that's what we're here to do. And without further ado, I think we'll kick off with our own teams, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the teams that we played against, and we'll try and maybe comment on the teams that we didn't. As you can see, Ben's up first. So Ben, take it away.
Rush. Rush is back. I made Rush. I invented Rush. Uh, no, I ripped off people who have been saying Rush has been good for a long time. Perhaps Nick may explain why Rush is good. But yeah, basically stole it off him and have used Rocket Raccoon, which makes basically when you draw, they kind of ruled Rush recently ish that it works as well as it possibly could, basically. So for every rush character you pull and every shield, in this case for Rocket Raccoon, which is the shield rush, shield character you pull, you basically draw an extra die. So you can draw quite a lot of dice. And I used the infamously hated big entrance, the card I never thought I'd use. But yeah, use that plus a combination of the Thor global and huge smash global to make sure I get big entrance on turn 2. Try and buy as many rockets and deathbirds as possible, and then load up. That's basically the team. The rest of it's kind of Thor was in there because of the global anyway, and I get a bunch of characters. So he's the main win condition.
Mm.
Although I've thrown in obviously some stuff to deal with Master Mold, which I thought we'd see a lot of. Deathbird and Tombstone, as well as my own Master Mold,
Mm.
if need. And then the rest of it's kind of just support pieces. Invisible Woman, Dark Phoenix help me either clear stuff out of my field if I need to, especially the Rocket Raccoons, or do some more defending against stuff that's kind of stopped my stuff from working. A la Drax. Drax
So,
is a bit of a pain if they Drax rocket early. That's a bit of a pain. So you have to get around that.
so you basically played two things that you always said you hated, which is rush and big entrance. And
Mm-hmm.
did it work? I mean,
It
did the
works.
rush
I
work?
mean, it worked pretty well. Yeah, yeah. I think it needs a little bit of refinement, maybe. If it goes well on turn 2, that's a big boon to the team. I.e., you roll big entrance, and if they have a prep global, you're rolling 4 sidekicks and big entrance.
Mm-hmm.
So the best that can be is 2 rockets and 2 deathbirds, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
If you
That,
don't get that, then it's a long time coming round. One of the good things about this team is it really works with Mr. Sinister Global if your opponent has it to thin the field. One of the big things is if you can't get psychics into the field to kind of thin your bag, it can become very problematic.
yeah.
So so if if you want to run this team and rush, it's a bit like Swarm back in the day. You have to get your bag fairly thin. The best way to do that is field sidekicks. You get loads of characters, and if you get Thor out in the field, you can field a lot of them fairly cheaply and very quickly.
Yeah. I will say that I stole this idea from Ben because I liked the idea of rolling lots of dice, and
Hmm.
also liked the idea of not bringing my opponent a bunch of ramp.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a big
we'll,
benefit.
we'll come to my team in a minute, but I think Ben's team's better. You definitely need, if you're going to do this, I think the Dark Phoenix to get your rockets, because you don't want your rockets stuck in the field, because then you just end
No,
up with a huge bag of shields.
one of the things
And
that is really good with this team is knowing how to break the rules regarding when character dice goes to the use pile.
mhm,
What I mean by that is if you don't field characters and you go into the attack step, all your characters immediately go to the use pile.
mhm,
This can be so if you attack with a sidekick, for example, and you have like a couple of rockets that you haven't fielded yet, those rockets immediately go to the use pile. That can be very useful if you have in a bag because you can immediately use huge smash to load up the
mm,
bag with those characters. And one of the things I think people probably get stuck on. So second bit of advice. So first bit of advice is get psychics out. Second bit of advice is don't feel like you always need to field characters.
yeah,
The they're kind of counterintuitive, but the Rocket, Raccoon, and Deathbird and Robin are when they're in your bag, they're more useful to you than when they're in the field.
Mm-hmm. Unless your opponent's stressing
Unless
you
your
with
opponent is going to kill
creating
you,
a
yeah.
massive field which you need
Yeah.
to block.
Yeah.
It all goes a
Yeah.
bit wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll come to that. Good. So interesting. I think definitely worth stealing. Rush is good, and with the new ruling, as Ben says, it's definitely worth playing around with. Lots of dice is always fun. So Ben, I think we'll move on at that point because you'll talk again about how you fared against various opponents. Since you can see Spug's name, we will mention his team briefly. He
last place finish, wasn't he?
Well, to be fair, his internet dropped, so it was nice to see him playing after such a long time. He's playing the same team that he played last time he played, almost.
Probably.
Which was Barry Allen. He didn't. He's not known, Spug, for preparing teams a long time in advance. So he did Barry Allen. I don't know how it went. We'll probably hear from him on the podcast about how it went for him.
No, but it's very similar to the team he was kind of running Dice Fight XL last time, I guess, which was the last thing he probably played in. But yeah, he likes the Barry Allen because it's not Master Mold, basically. It's probably the other big swingy win team. Maybe the Super Invisible Woman's taking over its spot. Definitely a good card if you can get it out into the field.
I definitely considered running Barry, but I was on this sort of no ramp buzz thing, which turned out to be disastrous. But I couldn't get to him. I thought it would be really cool now that we've got distraction back, because you can keep your control in the field theoretically. To build up a field of control and then get a Barry like you used to do with Bard in the old days, and then swing again and again with a gigantic field with buffed attack and defense. But the one time I tried to do that, I never got to Barry. Just couldn't get this bloody energy.
That 6 to 7 cost is
7 is definitely very different from 6, indeed. So we'll let Spug fill us in on the details on the next podcast with that. But my team, well, we've alluded to it already. I played against Ben a few times and stole some of his ideas. Because I've got none of my own, clearly. So I like the... that's not true. I made a few tweaks. The Rocket Raccoon rush thing, I independently did Deathbird because originally Ben had the Doctor Doom, which I thought was quite nice, the 2-cost Doctor Doom.
God Emperor.
Yeah, that one, sorry.
Yeah.
But I substituted that for Deathbird because, as Ben says, it's not you're not necessarily wanting it in the field, and Deathbird has Deadly, which can be useful against tokens, for example. And it's a villain, which can be useful against villainous packs. So for several reasons, I put that. We I think decided independently to put that in. I did Drax rush actually as much as anything. I almost always went with an early Drax big entrance in the same way as Ben mentioned, but I didn't always have double shields necessarily. So if I had a spare energy, I would go with the Drax and a rocket, for example. It worked. The Drax worked very well. Early Drax puts the kibosh on lots of things, but then I just got bogged down. I didn't do the rush terribly well. And two key things, well, I suppose more, but the Dark Phoenix Global I didn't have, which Ben did, which allows you to get things out of your field. I didn't have the game playing instinct of Ben, to keep not fielding the raccoon. Even
the huge mash makes a big difference to that as well.
And that was the last piece of the jigsaw, which I had played him when he was playing this team, and I realised that fielding psychics was obviously it's good to thin your bag so you're getting to the shields and bolts. But in order to sort of sort your bag and reset your bag and sift your bag and get rid of crap, that huge smash is I think a very important component, especially in the absence of any prep globals, which I didn't bring. I mentioned this, but I think in the previous video, I brought no RAM, thinking, people, they'll be playing big smashy things that they'll need to ramp up to. Nobody, or I think maybe one of my opponents had a prep global, and the rest of the games just dragged on. And I certainly had an issue where I had to keep a field, and I ended up fielding rockets, and then I had this massive pendulous bag of dice that I couldn't get through to get to my win condition. So that was a sort of an example of how not to play Rush, I think. But anyway, it was interesting.
The lack of thought probably makes a bit of a difference as well, not being able to buy the big entrance. And yeah, you went for a control-y version, basically, haven't you, of the team? Whereas I went for a pretty aggressive one. The distraction global is a nice include in the method to keep your control pieces in, but it makes it impossible to get that rocket out of the field or the tombstone out of the sometimes.
And it's at the expense of Big Smash because it's only on a basic action.
Yeah, I would also maybe have the KO global just to make sure you can get your rocket out.
Yeah. I perhaps should mention my win condition because that changed repeatedly. As I say, I tried Barry. That didn't go too well. I almost went with Thor, which would have been another steal from Ben, really. And then I thought, well, I shouldn't copy Ben, and partly, you know what? I've never played with Colossus, so about 5 minutes before the tournament starts, yes, as a tournament organizer, I've obviously submitted my team later than everybody else. And I just thought, just go with Colossus because that'll work out. It did work out a couple of times, but when I got bogged down, and if I missed Colossus, it was an awfully long time before I got back round to him. But it's good. Yeah, I think Colossus has some potential. In fact, the rest of it, I think, speaks for itself. To be honest, sorry, go on.
Colossus is a bit anti the team because you kind of want to keep stuff in the field.
In retrospect, yeah, Thor is a better choice. I think if you're going to run this kind of team, for sure.
Yeah.
Good. So those were our teams. Ben, my record was like 3-2, I think, but one of those was a bye. So I had 2 wins and 2 losses, in fact. So it was okay. I mean, it was fine. And how was yours, Ben?
I lost once. So we did 5 rounds, 4-1.
Yeah.
Or did we do 4 rounds?
5, I think.
Okay.
Good job. And so now we're going to talk about the people that we played against. One of them, conveniently, one of Ben's opponents is the next team, I think, the Hash. So how did that go?
Very interesting kind of. He had some really interesting little bits. Went for a kind of Powerball heavy strategy, which I think I was asked for. He bought at least 2, maybe he bought all 3 of the Powerbolts. And I was just able to kind of outspeed him. But some of the stuff that's interesting is the Jean Grey, which kind of gets tokens every time a character isn't KO'd on your turn. It's kind of an interesting piece, especially if you don't have Dark Phoenix, you don't need to use that ramp. It was for me to kind of think about, do I want to KO my characters on his turn just so he doesn't get the +1/+1 tokens. So it is an interesting piece that he'll live with the Living the Dream. I can see how it could cause some trouble. And then the Lewis Lane Global, also a big fan of that. It's a reprint of the Sam Wilson Global, I think. And that as defense. So yeah, there's some interesting bits here. Just not a lot of ramp on it, I don't think.
So the idea was to get a big old Jean Grey and give it Overcrush either with... Oh, it's not that Sarlacc, so definitely with...
Living the Dream, Living the Dream, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
How big did he get the Jean Grey, do you remember?
I think I was quite good with my tokens, because I had loads of bolts because of Rush Rocket, so I was able to kind of manage. I think it's still got 3 tokens on it, which is nothing to sniff at, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I think we're gonna spin to the top, and I might cut this out. And we come to 3 people, I think, right at the top of the list, against whom I played. So it looks like I'm going to talk a little bit. Troy, Yort 5 is Troy, and he was really annoying. What can we say about that? He had the only Wonder Woman in the tournament and didn't buy her. He didn't buy her against me, and I'm not sure how many times he actually bought her in the whole tournament. It was an interesting team. The win condition, I suppose, is that Deathbird. It didn't work very well against me because I didn't have much in the way of defense. But everybody was expecting loads of Master Molds, so that would have worked. That plus the Proxima Midnight 6-cost rare, which KOs all level 1 character dice, and tokens are considered level 1 character dice. So that is your versus Master Mold. That would be the win con. Against me, I think he might have done quite well with Lilandra a few times, burnt people down a little bit. But against me, that wasn't particularly useful. So he went with Spider-Man, who's super annoying. Spider-Man spins an opposing character die down when he attacks to an energy of the person the controller of Spider-Man's choice. So that'll be a single shield. Great. And for two reasons, that has fallen out of favour. I think one, Master Mold produces tokens which are not susceptible to spinning, and two, the existence of the Mr. Sinister global, which allows you to make use of energy which has been spun down. So if you've got two generic energy on your turn, you can, field sidekicks, prep, and do something useful with it. I didn't have that on my team because I thought it would be super clever not to bring any form of ramp. So you can imagine this team and also Elliot's team, which we'll come to, both had Spider-Man, and they took advantage of that. Sorry, Ben, I should let you speak.
In a non-master mold meta, Spider-Man becomes very, very useful as well as Pip the Troll Rare. Because it's difficult to keep a field up when they're around, and control pieces don't. I mean, they're really good solutions to control pieces. in a non-master mold, non-sinister. Yeah.
I think the other thing to mention about Troy's team is the Agent Brand, which we did mention on the previous video. Super cool, really surprisingly effective, really annoying. If you've got a few characters with some decent stats, like a couple of Spider-Men or something, it becomes really hard to get rid of stuff. And he's got the Force block global, so he can make you suck up his fast, so your stuff goes and his stuff stays. And fun times for all. That game lasted, I think it's still ongoing, but it certainly feels like it. That was longer. The next two were shorter games, mercifully. Supernova X4, who is Joel, I think. Forgive me if I'm mistaken about that. That was fun. He had overcrushing stuff in the form of that Black Widow's really annoying. It's overcrush and can only be blocked by sidekicks. And the Supergirl, who gives stuff overcrush when it energizes, so it rolls to a double shield. And the combination of that Superman and that Black Widow, or anything else that gets overcrush, is quite potent. Really, really quite good. It needs what it needed, I think, was something to get around distraction, which after taking after taking some 6 damage to the face once or twice, I realised that I actually had distraction, so I didn't need to take it. Yes, I think the flaws of this team is that it needs what's that global called, Ben?
The Gladiator global.
Gladiator, that's it. Yeah, or the Hawkman. And the other thing is that Overcrush these days doesn't feel as potent as it used to, because there's quite a lot of chunky defense stats. Well, I didn't particularly have them, but there are quite a lot of chunky defense stats around. But a good team. I enjoyed it very much. Ben, sorry. Okay.
What would be interesting is there's a Hawkman 3 costs that can't be blocked by purchase cost characters of 3 or less. With also the Gladiator global, so pairing that with the Superman, maybe you kind of got your distraction thing and your kind of unblockable kind of thing. That'd be interesting instead of the Black Widow. Maybe how did Pip the Troll work? It would be interesting to see how Pip the Troll worked, how effective that was. But you didn't have any globals, so
I didn't have any relevant globals, so he didn't buy against me. I think this was the only team on which Pip featured. So
yeah. I like it. Good choice. Pip's probably stat-wise too little.
Yeah, but for all of these, certainly, if this is your team, Joel, if you're listening, please do. Anybody, feel free to comment about anything that we might have missed about your teams. I certainly would be interested to know how these things performed against the other team.
Yeah, I would like to know if you got investigative journalism up. That's quite expensive. There's Dark Phoenix. Yeah, no, I mean that's a great card as well.
Yeah. Okay, let's go on to my. I think Kim was I think these were my first 2 opponents. Troy was my last opponent. So this is Kim's team, and she's gone full Fantastic Four. She's gone for the new WinCon which card was it? I've forgotten. Oh, it's the Black Panther, right?
Black Panther.
While Black Panther is active, if you attack with 6 or more different Fantastic Four characters, you win the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bit of a decoy, to be honest, because the chances of that
Molecule
happening
Man.
pretty minimal. Yeah, the Molecule Man almost got me.
Great card.
I'm not perhaps as astute as I used to be, or as I should be. While Molecule Man is active, your opponent must pay 2 to block each of your Fantastic Four character dice. If you've got a Black Panther sitting in the field with an attack of 8, okay, I had distraction, but that can definitely add up pretty quickly. And she managed to get Panther, Invisible Woman, Molecule Man, Mr. Fantastic. She had Corvus. I don't think she managed to get Namor or Thing. But that was good fun. We both had relatively slow teams. And it played out quite nice. I enjoyed playing it very much, Kim. It was good.
Yeah, the only thing that so she talks about building this team on Double Double and Dice podcast. One of the questions I had kind of when I was listening to that was why they put distraction on a team where Molecule Man wants. I don't know. It seemed. I guess the point was to build around Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it seems like you build around Molecule Man, you have more of a chance.
Yeah. I guess it's to keep stuff in the field so that because they all have to attack at the same time. But I just think that win con is the only way it could happen. Is I think Mr. Fantastic's quite good. That team watch ability works all right. And then there's another thing, although that thing we like. There is another thing which, when fielded, lets you draw and roll 3 dice. I think so. Some combination of those two and some very large quantities of luck could allow you to field most of your Fantastic Four on one turn and possibly win. But I'd like to see it happen. I really would.
Yeah, let us know if you've ever won with Black Panther Super Rare.
Yes, please do.
I don't have the cards, so I can't try it, but I'm sure it'd be fun to do.
Okay, so we'll push on. We'll go quickly through the teams that we didn't play against. But what's next, Dan? The Maker.
The Maker is a super cool card, and that Hawkman is the one I was talking about earlier. I like that as well.
Yeah.
Looks like a pretty competitive piece. Like the included Hellfire Gala. So yeah, looks a good team. Interesting with a double fist prep as well. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, nice. I like that Maker. I still feel my opinion hasn't changed. Great card in search of a use.
Well, great card in the wrong meta for it.
Yes. Right, let's move on to next up is Peter.
I played Peter.
Think you played him. Did you?
I played him last year. Yeah, last round. He just had a master mold, kind of non-updated, aggressive as possible master mold. Yeah, it was. He just hadn't practiced, I guess, with it enough. The included Vulcan's interesting as a force attack. He's got kind of the right bits on it. Just maybe hadn't practiced with master mold enough to kind of get around me. I don't think
the DMU crew is a bit rusty. It would seem.
Yeah, exactly. I think. Well, none of us are going. Yeah, you guys aren't going to Gen Con, so you don't have to practice. So yeah, no, all the right bits. Just need to kind of practice of getting the master mold out in the correct order. Yeah, still a classic team with the Spider Gwen include for removal against master mold, which is pretty effective.
What did you do against him? Did you go master mold?
Yeah, I think so. I just went rush, heavy rush, and then master mold as quickly as possible, basically.
So you didn't go for the turn 2 master mold. You invested.
No. I went for the rush still. Yeah.
Okay. I think maybe you also played. You mentioned Geki CP.
Yes, right? I did. Yeah, he also had the agent brand with the fast, and he had. I really like the Black Swan includes a very interesting piece to protect his Jane Foster or his Lilandra. So Black Swan basically, you can prevent damage to a shield character. So he was basically deciding what his opponent had that needed defense against either global usage or if they were going to ping him. So then use Black Swan to kind of defend that Jane Foster or Lilandra, which is kind of an interesting bit of counterplay. He also had the take cover to buff defenses for Deathbird, which was his win condition. Against me, he went for Agent Brand, Spider Gwen, and Deathbird. He didn't really get his Lilandra out in time, I don't think. Otherwise, it would be no. Different story, perhaps. But yeah, just the other thing with Rush is I don't really need a bunch of global usage. So yeah, neither Jane Foster nor Lalandra worked particularly well against the Rush Master Mold.
Yeah, it would have worked if you just had Thor, for example.
If I just
If you
gone for
had
Thor, yeah. But as soon as I saw Jane Foster,
Jane Foster is hard to get around. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty strong.
So
Yeah.
you just need an alternative
I mean,
win condition.
what's really good about the Rush team is it has both Master Mold and Thor, and basically you can go for whichever one you need.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Makes sense. Okay, next up we have Ransomont, Clem, who had some success. I was told I didn't
Did
have an
very well.
opportunity
Yeah.
to play with him, but he'd done pretty well previously against Master Mold teams with a combination of hard control, Spider Gwens to knock them out, and Jubilee pinging. What did he actually kill people with?
To actually win the game, it was a combination of Jubilee and Deathbird. Yeah, depending on what you needed.
Oh, that Deathbird. Right, gotcha.
We played a couple of times, in kind of preparation for this, and for Clem it was kind of timing when to buy the Jubilee. I think all the Deathbird was his biggest problem, because the temptation on a control team is just to get all your heavy control out.
Yeah.
The problem with that is, especially with a forced attack load on your opponent's team, you're kind of using a lot of energy to keep those control pieces in the field.
Yeah.
So when can you get to your Lalandra, when you can get to your Jubilee, and timing that right,
for sure,
is the thing he was working on.
But I think he did pretty well, right?
He did, yeah. He did 4-1, I think.
Right. Okay. Moving on to Danny, Nefarious Broadcaster, who has been playing Master Mold.
This team for a while.
He likes his Master Mold.
It's not just Master Mold though. If you look carefully, it's the kind of idea that I had with the Rush team. That you basically use all the pieces of ramp, the Sinister, Dark Phoenix, and the Prep, and then you choose between Master Mold, Thor, and Invisible Woman.
Did you play against him? He crushed me with Master Mold at least once.
I'm pretty sure I don't think I played him in this tournament, but I played him against this team a few times. I think every time he tries to go Invisible Woman against my Master Mold, which is interesting. They all work. Yeah, it's great having that choice. I think personally, I would take probably the Invisible Woman off.
Yeah, you probably did 2 rather than 3.
Yeah,
I played against Master Mold and went hard control, and it went quite well with the Drax business, but he had some jammy pulls. Oh my god! Every time I'd sort of get rid of, maybe he wouldn't roll Master Mold, and it would disappear, and you think, oh, maybe you've got a turn to breathe, and then he'd just pull it out of the bag next. It was painful. Anyway,
that's the power of Sinister, isn't it? As well,
it is for sure. Next up is Jason, who I think you also played against, Ben.
He had a bunch of different stuff. He was using a Rush team. He was using the principle of Master Mold, where you get some big static characters out.
Yeah.
But instead of doing that, he was trying to do Orion.
Yeah, I quite like that. He played that against me.
It was kind of interesting.
It was fun.
I like the Wong as well, and the Tombstone choice is good. Yeah, so it was kind of a tense back and forth. That's a better word. Because he could have, I think, swung really early in the game and got me. I think he just missed the rolls he needed. I think he had a couple of Orions out really early, and I didn't have anything in the field.
So this is a Rush team in the old sense.
Yeah, it is. It's really yeah. And then he also has that backed up by some good control with the Tombstone and Typhoid.
What do you think to that Phoenix Force Cyclops as a counter to Master Mold, for example?
So the problem I have with it is it's the same as the Rare Dark Phoenix. So I'd rather just play the Rare Dark Phoenix, and then you'd argue that the problem with Rare Dark Phoenix is that global means it's very playable around. Like you can carry your character before they do damage to Dark Phoenix. So with the Rare Dark Phoenix, the problem is if you attack with the Rare Dark Phoenix and they block with a character, let's say an 8/6 Tombstone, that's great in theory because you're going to do 8 to your opponent. But what happens is they just use the Dark Phoenix to be able to carry a Tombstone.
Right.
And then they're still blocked, and you did no damage.
The other problem is, I find, because I tried to make it work and I failed. Maybe for different reasons. So that's a problem with blocking. But you can block, and if they don't have Dark Phoenix, you can get some damage through that way. But if it's when you're attacking and you've got a force block, which Jason doesn't, he doesn't have a force block or attacking, I think. But typically you might have a force block or a force attack with it. So if you try and do it on your turn, not on their turn, and you force them to block, they can just, if they have a force attack, they can just force some other character to attack and then block that instead.
Yeah.
And so you end up trying to play the game with just this one character in the field, which, let me tell you, doesn't work.
No.
in
no,
the
it doesn't work.
No.
Yeah,
you get
so
overwhelmed
then
very quickly.
it's just too tricky to make work at a 6 cost. The Jocasta was really good because of the 4 cost you get in the field really early. 6 cost kind of pushes his disability too far at the main win condition. It's good as a surprise win condition, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, let's. I think we have a few more teams to go, so let's. We don't want this video to run too long. We have Rick's. Rick is Empire, and I played against in testing. I think in one of the dice fights. I think the 2 dice fights before perhaps were both preparation for this. So I had the honour of playing against some of these teams. He had Colossus as well. When I played him, I wasn't playing Colossus. I think maybe I was playing Thor. I just ripped Ben off wholesale at that time, and was it that? I found I was struggling against that black. No, you know what? It was stolen from you. It was Hellfire Gala, which was also also nicked from Ben, and I struggled horribly against that Black Panther, which basically every time the opponent feels a die. Yeah. If you're the controller of Black Panther, you get to reroll one of their other dice. So if you're trying to accumulate 16 characters in the field, that doesn't work terribly well, I have to say. And I didn't have any other appropriate removal, so I got very bogged down in that game. But interesting team, I think. That Falcon Global is a good add. That's just annoying. Yeah. Next is Elliot's, who I did play. I think, perhaps, I mean, Elliot, please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I guess some of the thinking behind this is that Infiltrate acts as your own personal distraction. Once you've got it set up, you can do control stuff like Drax and, well, I suppose Spider-Man to some extent, without having to spend the masks to constantly distract them back, because Infiltrate basically says if your character attacks and is unblocked, instead of letting it go through, you can return it to your field zone and do 1 damage called Infiltrate damage. So it works against like force attacks when people force something to attack, and they would let it through. Well, they're not able to do that. So I guess the team may have grown from there. I don't know. It's interesting because it's always been without Cosmic Cube, Infiltrate has always been a bit slow. I remember back in the day, it worked very well with Cosmic Cube, and there was what's that dude's name? It was one of the cards that was designed by a previous winner, Ricochet. Huh?
Ricochet, right.
Who generated a lot of ramp for an Infiltrate team. But this was not that, and it was another one of these teams which didn't have ramp, and neither did I. So I think he was better prepared for that than I was, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, he has Pirate Broadcast. He's not coming to make anyone's life fun, is he?
No.
Yeah, my opinion on this team for Elliot... Yeah. I mean, yeah, he can tell us if he's wrong, but it seems like the intention is just to stop your opponent from winning rather than you trying to win yourself. Horrible table flips. Yeah, Pirate Broadcast distraction with a force attack, with a Spider-Man, with a Drax. The great thing about this team is it can really stall out a Master Mold team. With the Pirate Broadcast, I think it's probably an interesting way of stopping that early kind of big ramp that we've been talking about with Mr. Sinister.
Yeah.
Or at least confuse it. And then if you can, like we've been saying, Spider-Man's a great option if they can't get tokens out in the field.
Yeah. I'd be interested to know if he managed to, because it doesn't seem to have sufficient damage output, right? So I think, like with me, I let a Spider-Man through, and then after about half an hour or so, maybe 25 minutes, he had a big field because he's I don't know if he did use the Falcon Global, but his aim is to produce a much bigger field than his opponent, and push with it, and anything which and obviously he's removing stuff with Spider-Man, and anything that the opponent can't block, he does a damage for. So I think he did about, I might be wrong, but about 6 or 7 Infiltrate damage, and that was enough. And then 10 minutes later it was time, and my win condition still hadn't come around. Okay, so that was Elliot. Next up is Dana, General Nemesis,
I
who
played
won. I think he won,
against
right?
Dana.
How was it?
Yeah. Annoying. I shouldn't have lost. I shouldn't have won. I shouldn't have lost.
Salty Ben.
Well, I could. Dana. This game was the only game where I was like, oh, I can buy a Master Mode and a Thor.
Mm-hmm.
I was sort of in such a comfortable. It was weird because I got in such a comfortable position. I went for Thor really early, and I sort of missed a roll with one of the Thors. And instead of kind of doing what I'd normally do, which is just kind of focus on getting that die back round,
Uh-huh.
I was like, oh, I'll just buy a Master Mode as well.
Oh, okay.
And it's just, yeah, the Proxima kind of did a good job of taking care of that Master Mode.
That's very unnew. You have
There
spoken
was
explicitly on that topic about not buying another
not
double
buying
R
stuff.
with
I know.
ramping. Mm.
Well, I felt. I mean, it's going to sound really, really, really salty or arrogant. I don't know. But I was like, I'm going to win this game. So yeah, let's just have some fun. I'll buy a Master Mode. Why not? That's how comfortable I was feeling. I was really in control. I think he missed like Drax, his first roll of Drax or something.
Uh-huh.
Or he Drax something. I think he Drax Master. I can't remember exactly. He didn't know what to Drax or he didn't know what to Typhoid. And it wasn't going well for him. And I was really on top. Yeah, and then I kind of spent this energy and then missed it again.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think he eventually snuck out the win with a bunch of sidekicks and Thor. He rolled. Well, okay, so I think over the course of 3 turns, maybe 2 turns, he rolled 9 sidekicks over those 2 turns. It must have been 2 turns. And got 6 psychic faces.
Excellent.
And that was enough to kill me with Thor. You know, it was
Magic
like a really.
hands.
He might disagree, but I think that game was very, 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 very lucky for him.
I had a similar moment of
And my own
overconfidence
arrogance. Yeah.
against Troy. I had it all set up. In fact, and it was the only time probably in the whole tournament where I had my field set up with a couple of two, three, four maybe level 2 characters and Colossus in the field, ready to just sit back and at the end of every turn do 8 damage or whatever it was, and it wouldn't have been very long. I managed to do it once, and then I think he attacked with Spider-Man. Obviously spun. I think I'd blocked his Spider-Man with Drax. Maybe I think maybe he removed my Drax with mutation, and then got Spider-Man in the field. I did 1 turn of Colossus, and then he removed him by spinning him to a fist, and I never saw him again.
Yeah.
It all crumbled before my very eyes. Yes.
But it's a good team.
It's a good team, yeah.
And he's obviously very, very good at running it.
Very good indeed. Good. Let's move on to Nightstorm Flare. I think is one of Troy's sons, if I'm not mistaken.
No, another Fantastic Four team.
So this is also that one. So it's the okay.
It's not Super Red Black Panther. This is just making all your Fantastic Four characters massive with the rare thing and rare Black Panther, and then using them. Right. This is probably a Focus Molecule Man team, actually.
That looks pretty fun, actually. I like that.
I like the Super Rare Mr. Fantastic, where you just roll a die for each of your Fantastic Four characters. That's pretty fun. That could be pretty cool.
3 cost. Yeah, that's good.
I know, especially if you're thinning your bag out with that Namor.
Yep, like that.
And the frontline's fun.
Don't know about the Crimson Gem of Sitarak. I can never actually read to the end of that card. But yes, let us know how it went in the comments, because I don't think either of us played you, but that looks like a fun team. And I'm not sure how I should pronounce this, but SK Earth Plays Z or something. Skirth Plays. Let's say that. I think might, if I'm mistaken, again, correct me in the comments, but I think it might be Troy's other son. Powerbolt. Oh, Jimmy Woo. Yeah, Jason played that.
I heard there was I think this might be. I think he may have played the hash, and there may have been a Powerbolt off at some point.
Excellent. I like that Jimmy Woo combination with.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah,
that's spinning stuff down with because there's nothing to stop action dice, right? Yeah,
no. Lots of action dice usage. Yeah, that's fun. The Sheriff Strange and the Magic also trigger off action dice, which is cool.
Fun, definitely fun. Yeah. Like that. Yeah. Okay. We've done your.
Back to the start. Look at this team.
We are. Yeah. Look.
You're skipping past the best ones.
Look at Ben's team. Right. So we are back to the beginning. Hopefully, we've done everybody justice. Please do let us know if we've missed anything in the comments. I'm sure we have. Thank you once again all for taking part. And thank you viewers for watching the video. We hope it's been somewhat entertaining and useful, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.